Hi everybody, Steve Dawson here, and I just want to say a few general things about the assessment, just give you an overview of the assessment. In regard to each assessment item, separate things will be put up on Blackboard. I'll also do FAQ sheets for the assessments, so you don't sort of feel lost or you're not really sure what to do. Hopefully the FAQ will answer the common questions that we often get with this. If there are things that aren't being addressed, please come and see me either before the screenings or after the screenings, or if you're in my class in the tutorial, or feel free to shoot me across an email. So there are 3 assessment tasks for Australian cinema. One is the tutorial discussion, which is ongoing from weeks 2 to 12. It's worth 30% of the course. The second and the third assessment are written assessments. One is Outwardly Australian Cinema. That's a 1,000-word assessment. It's due on the 28th of August. And there is Dossier, which is due on the 20th of October, and that is a 1,500-word thing. I will now talk individually about each assessment task. So the tutorial discussion is basically this. In groups of 2 or 3, really depending on how many students are in the class or the tutorial class, you will be assigned to a week, and what your job is for that week is to basically unpack the required reading. Your job is to talk to the reading, pull it apart, ask questions about the readings. If you have criticisms about the readings, which is absolutely fine, I want you to make those criticisms known. But what you really want to do is engage the class in a conversation. So I want you to be asking the class questions about how they view the reading, and also placing the reading within the broader context of the film. So you don't necessarily have to talk only about the film for that week. You can also relate it to other films that we've seen in the course, but also other films outside of the course. It is about you unpacking the reading, but it's also about the way you unpack the reading and speak to the film that we've seen that week, and also the recommended reading. And it's not really about the recommended reading, but the recommended reading should actually be raised. The recommended reading, of course, is there to talk directly to the film that we've seen. So all 3 should be considered when you're doing your discussion. So think of the film that we've seen that week, think of the required reading, and think of the recommended reading. What I want you to do is really just have a conversation with your group members, but also a wider conversation with the class members. So it is really important to be asking them questions, and your tutors will also sort of be throwing in ideas as well. But it's really important that the class members, people who aren't presenting that week, actually contribute to the conversation, right? That's really, really important. So please, everybody, make sure you've seen the film before you come to class, and make sure you've done the readings, just so you can engage. And also make sure you've listened to the audio lectures, which will hopefully help set up things for that week. Now, there is no written component for the discussion, so you don't have to submit anything. All you have to do is present. Now, I'm not calling this a presentation. Often when we say presentation, we're thinking clips, we're thinking PowerPoint. I don't really want that. I mean, if you feel it's absolutely necessary to have a PowerPoint or to play a clip, then by all means, go for it. But really, it is just about unpacking the readings for that week. The readings, they're not heavy readings. They're really about the industry as a whole. They're asking questions. A lot of the readings are quite provocative in what they're actually saying about the industry. So I really want you to engage and just talk about your own responses to the readings. The next assessment is, it's called Outwardly Australian Cinema. It's 1,000 words. It's an individual assessment. It's worth 30% of the overall percentage of the course. And really what I want you to do I'll read what I wrote. In this assessment, you will trace one Australian film to discuss how it positions itself both within and outside of the Australian cinema. Here you are to discuss the marketing and broader distribution of the film, in addition to ways it represents wider ideas of international Australia. So think of a film, any film, either within the course that we've seen or outside of the course that we've seen, and I want you to discuss what makes this film international. How is this film an international Australian film? So your film doesn't have to be from the course, but like I said, you're welcome to use films outside the course. If you are going to use films outside the course, it's probably best just to run it by your tutor, just to make sure it is okay. You can be as creative as you want. If you want to say, okay, The Matrix is an international Australian film because here is a Hollywood film that was shot in Australia, I don't actually have any objections to that. Now, some aspects which you could discuss in relation to your choice of film and some things to concentrate on would be the marketing and the advertisements of the film, like the Sapphires, how it was actually promoted using particular internationally recognisable stars. So think of the trailers, the posters, interviews, how are key personnel actually discussing and talking about this film. Whether the film was an international co-production, right? That's really important as well. Where is the money for the film actually coming from? The cast of internationally marketable actors. Now that doesn't just mean international actors; it also can mean Australian actors like a Russell Crowe, Nicole Kidman, Eric Bana. These actors are very important to promoting Australia outside of Australia. The use of international genres and subject matter. So the Sapphires, again, really important the way that it's actually tapping into the current Hollywood musical. Whether the film is exhibited outside of Australia, so try and follow the film outside of Australia and just see where and how it's playing. Also consider screenings at international film festivals. Did it screen at international film festivals? Ways that Australia is represented on screen as an international landscape, and really think about that. Like I feel like Mad Max is fascinating because it's representing Australia, but this is not an Australia we know or we're familiar with. It's not like Finding Nemo. The thing about Finding Nemo is we know these landscapes. We know the Great Barrier Reef. We can go there. We know Sydney Harbour. We can go there. But something like a Mad Max is just really, really interesting. Or the Rover, both set in the future, and they're both sort of representing Australia in very, very sort of almost anti-Australian ways, and thinking about that as is there such a thing as an anti-Australian film? Something else that you could look at. Okay, so that's the assessment. It's just 1,000 words, so it's sort of a neat and tight assessment. You can use images if you want, like if you want to talk about the posters and include a poster, that's absolutely fine as well. But it's really the whole idea of identifying and defining and discussing what is meant by an international Australian film and how you actually define an international Australian film. For this reading, or for this assessment, I really recommend that you read Ben Goldsmith's Outwardly Looking Australian Cinema, which is the reading for week 2. It's really going to set up very nicely what an Australian film is. And really what I want you to do is to read that reading and then actually go and follow or sort of place a film, a specific film within that whole idea and that reading. The final assessment is a dossier on, and essentially what we mean by a dossier is a collection of articles from a number of different places. They are published articles. They are, previously these articles have been published. Now you can use articles from the course guide if you like, but at least 50% of articles have to be from elsewhere, so you need to do some research here. What I say to students is you can use one newspaper article if you like, but no reviews, and you also can use one interview if you like with key personnel. But really what I want you to do is actually go through the film journals and the film books and things like that and really find articles that are to do with specific elements of your dossier. This is an assessment that will be done in pairs, so you need to team up with someone. It doesn't really matter if they're in your tutorial or not, as long as they're part of the course, that's absolutely fine. And what you need to do is think of a theme, of a subject, of a topic. So some examples I've put here are contemporary Australian genre films, Australian stars, or an Australian star, like Nicole Kidman or something. International directors in Australia, Australian actors in Hollywood, Australian box office. There's been a whole lot of discussion about Australian box office of late, and we're actually looking at that over the course. That could be interesting. Indigenous films and filmmaking. Like I said, it's a selected film, so you can do it actually on a particular film if you like. Also, Australian film exhibition could be another really interesting choice of topic. So you need to select between 8 and 12 articles. And then what you need to do with your partner is write 1,500 words. And the 1,500 words is an introduction to your dossier. And the introduction must set up the particular themes of your dossier, and also it's about tying each article to the broader dossier itself. So what I really want you to be doing is thinking about, why have I chosen this article? Why is it placed here? Think about the ordering of the dossier. So what you have to do is you don't have to attach the actual article itself that you've picked from somewhere, but you do need a table of contents. So you need a 1,500 word introduction and a table of contents. It really just introduces it all. I will be putting examples up of dossiers on Blackboard, so just keep watching under the assessments, and that will be coming up very, very shortly. So for the submission of tasks, or the written assessment tasks, they have to be electronically submitted on Blackboard under assessments. I'll do a tutorial for this to show you how to do it. And information, yeah, like I said, information regarding this will be under assessments on Blackboard. So just remember, there is no hard copy submission. You don't have to submit anything in a hard copy. You don't have to do any printing. You can all do it at home, and you just submit it through Blackboard. It's a pretty simple format, and if you've done it in other courses, which I'm assuming you have, as we're now in semester 2, it's pretty simple, and we will be doing all of our marking also electronically and sending that back to you. For all of your assessments, certainly assessment 3 and also to help with assessment 2, I highly recommend that you go to the AFI Research Collection. Now, the AFI Research Collection is located in the Swanston Library, so the RMIT Swanston Library. It's on level, well, it's kind of the second level of the library, but I actually think it's level 2. It's like level 6 of the building or something like that. But just go into the library, go up the stairs, and you'll see the signs, the AFI Research Collection. This is it's a mini library within the library, and it's devoted to film, articles, journals, books. It's fantastic, and a lot of the materials is actually on the Australian cinema, and they've actually got film files. So say you want to do your assessment or your dossier on, say, Finding Nemo, they'll actually have a film file on Finding Nemo where they've collected all the press clippings and things like that. So it's a fascinating place to be. It's a great place to be. The staff are fantastic, and I highly recommend that you do go and use this resource. If you haven't used it already, it really will help with your collecting of articles, certainly for your dossier, and also for things to do with the assessment 2, and also for assessment 1, which is the in-class discussion. Okay, so I hope that gives you a general overview of the assessments for this course. Like I said, I'll be doing individual ones on each assessment, closer to assessment dates and things like that. And I also will be doing an FAQ for each assessment, which will be going up under the assessments on Blackboard.